Welcome back. In the last episode, you saw me turn some pants into shorts. That left me with a whole bunch of unused pant legs. What are you going to do with a whole bunch of unused pant legs? Can't rightly walk around with just pant legs. I guess they would be like leg warmers, wouldn't they? Anyway, I was wondering, what am I going to do with them? I decided I was going to make grocery bags out of them. To make grocery bags out of them, I'm just going to take the pant leg and I'm going to cut down one of the seams and turn it into just a square piece of fabric, and then lay it out in piles so that I can cut it to all the same size. This is through a process of what I call rinse and repeat. Do the same thing to every single pant leg, and voila, you've got sheets of fabric. Now, this one is taking about 4 sheets of fabric, and one of the things I want to do is square them up. Now, in my wisdom, I decided to use my roller cutter to cut through 4 heavy pieces of fabric. Now, this isn't denim material. It's more of like a sort of like a ducted canvas type material. And I wasn't able to, with my dull cutter there, to get through all 4 pieces of the fabric. So I drew a line with the straight edge and then went back and tried to cut with the scissors. I tried going in through one side and made it all the way to the seam and couldn't make it past that. So it was time to go in from the opposite side. And once I got that cut, it was time to trim up the sides. Once again, I was running into issues with my dull roller knife here. So I trimmed up one side and then carefully measured the other. As you can see, if you want the measurements, just look down there on the cutting pad I have, and you'll get the measurements. And it's very important that when you're cutting, you don't let your straight edge slide out from underneath you, and also be able to cut with the left hand. And those are the 2 side pieces that are cut to the size I want them. And then I was trying to figure out which sides do I sew together. Is it the inside or the outside? And there it is. That's how they'll be sewn together. So inside out. And at this point, I decide I will pin the bottom and try to make the bag with the sides being a continuous bottom, or going down, meaning it to form the bottom. That's hard for me to say. And once I got the bottom pinned up, I then took out an additional piece of fabric and once again carefully measured by folding in half again, then getting out the ruler, unfolding, and laying it out on the cutting table, lining it up, and then counting, because I went to public school and can't do math, and counting to find the middle, and then marking with my erasable Sharpie, and then counting over again and making my other mark. And then I noticed that the marks weren't lined up. But I've got old trusty straight edge, and this doesn't have to be perfect. It is only a shopping bag after all. So back to my dull roller blade. A lot of pressure and force. Cut those in half. Now I'm taking those 2 sides, and I'm going to pin, or actually, we'll call those ends from this point out. I'll take those 2 ends and pin them to the side. And as I'm going down to the bottom, I'm going to leave that open because that's where I'm going to meet those ends that I made. Well, you'll see what I mean. My idea was just to make the bag without an independent bottom by pinning the 2 sides together to form the bottom. And as I got down there and I took a look, as you can see right there, it took about 3 to 4 inches away from the bag's depth, and I didn't like that. I wanted a deeper bag. It's at this point that I just decided I was going to pin all the way down with the ends to the sides and then unpin the bottom, and I was going to make a separate bottom for that. And with that all complete, oh nope, I still have one end to go. Let's see, at this point I was trying to decide, how am I going to put this end in here? Which side does it go? Does it go inside out, outside in? And so I decided to do it this way, which I realized when I went to pin the opposite side in place that I had done it incorrectly. So, yep, that's right. I have to take all those pins out again, reverse the fabric, and do the whole process all over again. And then it's on to the bottom. I got the fabric, and since the dimensions of the ends were 8 inches, I decided to, with my trusty ruler here, just measure out 8 inches from the hem, and then use my straight edge to cut the excess fabric off, and that would give me my bottom that should match up perfectly to the ends that I cut. So then I started to pin in the bottom. I'm wondering, is watching somebody pin fabric as boring as actually pinning fabric? Leave a comment below. So I got to the end and I was getting ready to pin up the sides, and I couldn't see how I was going to sew this in one piece. So I took all the pins out, and it's time to get out the old trusty sewing machine. Here I am trying to figure out how to operate the sewing machine, and for this project I am going to use the double stitch function that this sewing machine has. Otherwise I would have to sew back over each seam that I'd sew in so I can get a double stitch in there. It adds a lot more strength to the bag, because these are going to be grocery bags and I'm going to be carrying heavy items in it. So just have to work through all 4 of those hemlines, and it's at this point that the thread on the needle backs out, and I have to use my stubby fingers to try to get that thread to go back into that little tiny needle. And with that problem solved, I'm back in business. And with all 4 seams done up, now I have a tube. So let's get to the bottom. Here I am with the bottom, and it dawns on me that I cut the fabric too short. Alrighty, what am I going to do now? Oh, wait. Here's the piece of fabric that I cut off of it. And it's shorter than the other one, but I'll just sew the two back together. And with a quick run on the sewing machine, I now have 1 piece of fabric where I used to have 2. So I'll just pin this fabric back to the bottom, and my thought was, and it actually worked out pretty good, I pinned on 3 sides the sewn bottom into the tube, and then went and pinned the 4th side down, giving me plenty of seam allowance, and then just sewed around. And when I was done sewing around, I cut off the extra fabric, and that gave me the bottom I was looking for. And at this point I heard a noise in the sewing machine, and I thought I broke something, only to find out it was an easy fix. I ran out of thread in the bobbin. So after I got the bobbin all threaded back up, it was back to sewing on the bottom, and then I put a little back stitch into that just to lock the stitch in place, and now I have a bag. But this bag isn't complete. This bag needs handles. I get out some webbing that I have in my kit, and I measure out 2 links of webbing 18 inches long, and then I carefully measure the center and mark where I'm going to sew the straps onto the bag. And once everything is all marked up, I line everything up, and then I use pins to hold the webbing in place, and then it's onto the sewing machine to sew in the webbing. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, remember always to leave a like, subscribe, and do all that other YouTube stuff. And hope you try and make your own bag and help just alleviate the unwanted plastics that are out in the environment right now. Those single-use plastics are terrible. Of course, the true test of any grocery bag is how many family-sized boxes of Cheerios it can hold. I just happen to have some on the shelf, and let's just see how many I can get in this bag. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, 4. Well, that's 4. Can I get 5 in there? And sure enough, I can get 5 boxes of family-sized Cheerios in this bag. I probably could have got a 6, but hey, no need to overdo it. Anyway, thanks for